In 1975, a couple sat in a hospital room with two names written on a piece of paper. They picked one in under a minute. It felt like the most personal decision they'd ever make. It wasn't. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly what was really choosing for them. Say your first name out loud right now. You probably have a story for it, a grandmother, a favorite character, a name that just felt right. But underneath that story, something else was steering your parents. Something they never noticed happening. Once you see it, you'll never hear your own name the same way again. Here's the story your parents likely told you: they picked your name out of love. Because it felt unique. Because it felt like you, somehow, before you even existed. In 2000, sociologist Stanley Lieberson spent years studying how names actually move through a population, and he found something parents rarely want to hear. Names aren't chosen. They're worn. Like clothing. Like fashion. A name rises, peaks, and falls not because it stopped being beautiful, but because everyone else started wearing it too. The name your parents thought was rare and special was, statistically, right on schedule. But someone has to start a trend before it becomes one. So who? In 2016, researcher Hema Narasimhan at UC Davis went looking for the answer. She pulled Social Security naming data back to 1940 and cross-referenced it against census records on education and cultural activity. The pattern she found surprised almost no one who studied fashion, and unsettled everyone who thought their baby's name was untouched by it. Higher education, culturally active parents start the trends. Everyone else follows a few years later. And the moment a name they picked becomes common, those same parents quietly abandon it. Not because it changed. Because everyone else caught up. You didn't pick your child's name. You inherited a signal from a stranger you've never met, set in motion years before you ever wrote it on a form. That's unsettling. It's not even the strangest part. In 2002, psychologist Brett Pelham published a study that should embarrass all of us a little. He wanted to know if the sound of your own name quietly steers your life without you ever noticing. So he pulled census data. Where do people actually move? What jobs do people actually take? The pattern had a name almost too perfect for what it describes: implicit egotism. People named Louis are disproportionately likely to end up living in St. Louis. People named Georgia are overrepresented in the state of Georgia. People named Dennis and Denise show up as dentists far more often than chance would predict. Pelham even found people are more likely to marry someone whose name simply shares their own initials. Nobody in these studies believed their name had anything to do with it. Every one of them had a reason: the job felt right, the city felt right, the person felt right. But run the numbers across enough people, and the pattern doesn't move. The sound your parents picked in a hospital room decades ago is quietly nudging you towards strangers, cities, and careers that happen to echo it back. You've been making free decisions your whole life. Some of them were an echo. An echo is still relatively harmless. What happens next isn't. In 2005, economist David Figlio did something clever. Instead of comparing strangers, he compared siblings: same parents, same house, same last name, same household income. The only difference was the first name each child had been given. Some names, his data showed, were disproportionately given by parents without a high school diploma. Others weren't. Figlio found that teachers unconsciously expected less from the sibling with the less educated sounding name and graded them differently for it. Same house. Same parents. Same genes. The only variable was 2 syllables on a birth certificate, and it was already shaping how an adult in a classroom treated a child before that child had done anything at all. If a name can quietly change how a teacher grades a 9-year-old, imagine what it does to an adult applying for a job. In 2004, economists Marianne Bertrand and Sendil Mullainathan sent nearly 5,000 identical resumes to real job openings in Boston and Chicago. Same qualifications. Same experience. Same everything. The only thing that changed was the name at the top. Half the resumes had names like Emily and Greg. Half had names like Lakeisha and Jamal. The white-sounding names got 50% more callbacks. Same resume. Same skills. Same person, on paper, in every way that should have mattered. The only variable was a name chosen by someone else, before the applicant could talk, walk, or do a single thing to earn or deserve it. A name picked in a hospital room, under a minute, decades earlier, quietly deciding, years later, whether a phone would ring. This is the part that changes how you should think about the whole story. It was never really about parents choosing a name out of love, or fashion, or family tradition. It's about a sound attached to you before you exist, that goes on to shape who grades you, who calls you back, who you marry, and where you end up living. All while everyone involved insists they were simply going with their gut. Go back to that couple in 1975. They thought they were making the most personal decision of their lives. In a narrow sense, it was their taste, their moment, their piece of paper. But the trend that put those two names on that paper started with someone else, years earlier. The pull toward one name over the other echoed decisions they never saw and never will. And the sound they landed on would go on, years later, to open some doors before their daughter ever knocked, and quietly close others she never even saw. She would grow up believing she built her own life, one choice at a time. In most of the ways that matter, she did. But some of those choices had already been shaped by two syllables selected in under 60 seconds, before she took her first breath. You didn't choose your name. And in ways you will probably never fully trace, your name has been quietly choosing parts of your life ever since.